Hospital. Good morning, Katy. Doctors are also trying to...
Well, that's right, Sean. This isn't just about whether hospitals are overwhelmed with coronavirus patients, although, of course, that is the main concern. There is also this huge backlog of patients that's been building up for the last year who need elective surgeries. And the worry is, if the Indian variant continues to rise, they'll have to wait even longer. So let me just put this in a little bit of perspective for you. We are nowhere near those levels back in January, for example, when 4,500 coronavirus patients were being admitted in a day. We're around about the 130 number, but that's gone up over the last 7-day period by 25%. And that's a real concern, particularly in areas like Lancashire, where I am today, where the Indian variant is at its highest. In Burnley Hospital alone, they're treating 25 coronavirus. So the vaccination programme has been going well. It's been a bit more like a leisurely marathon to date, but now it's going to be a full pelt sprint to try and get every 50-year-old vaccinated by the 21st of June. Less than 50% of 50-year-olds have been vaccinated to date. But what we're also hearing this morning from the Telegraph is that what won't form part of that roadmap is the COVID vaccination passports for people to go to large-scale events. Does that mean that we won't need the passport to go to them, or does it mean they won't happen at all? We won't find that out until a week before.
We certainly won't. Katy, thank you.
Well, that's right, Sean. This isn't just about whether hospitals are overwhelmed with coronavirus patients, although obviously that's the primary concern. But there is this huge backlog that's been building up for more than a year now of people who need elective surgery and have had to wait longer than they ever would in normal circumstances. And there's worries now that this Indian variant could make them wait even longer. So let's just put this in a bit of perspective. So we're nowhere near those levels back in January, for example, where around 4,500 people were hospitalised with COVID in a day. We're more around the 130 mark, but the cases are rising. They've gone up by about 25% over the last 7 days. Here in Burnley, they're treating 25 COVID patients at the moment. And in nearby Blackburn with Darwin, the worst affected area, almost 600 cases recorded in a 7-day period. And according to one advisor to the government, we won't know for another couple of weeks just how much of a problem these cases are going to cause. So a week or two's time, well, it's a real race against time for the government now, who want to vaccinate everyone in their 50s by June the 21st. That's the second dose I'm talking about. And what effect could it have? Well, if they are considering that there are problems, they might say we still have to wear face masks. They might say we should still work from home. And this morning, the Telegraph are reporting that they've pretty much scrapped the idea of COVID passports to get into large-scale events. Does that mean those events simply won't happen?
Katy, thanks very much indeed.
Well, that's right, Sean, and that is a real cause for concern, isn't it? Because these are the people who will be the last to get vaccinated and potentially the most likely to enjoy the restrictions once they ease, as nightclubs open and large-scale events take place. Now, you might be thinking, well, of course they're going to be the ones getting this Indian variant because they're the ones who haven't had the vaccine. But really worryingly, the numbers are actually of 5 to 14-year-olds getting the Indian variant, now the highest they've ever been throughout the pandemic, making up a third of cases in Bolton, for example, which did have the worst number of cases before Lancashire took over. And of course, those children then go home and pass it on to the people who are older, and that's when the vaccine will really get tested. 25%, hospitalisation cases are up 25% over the last week. There are 25 patients in this hospital alone. Here's what Sir David King from Sage has to say. So the government is currently embarking on a mad dash to make sure that everyone in their 50s has their second jab before the 21st of June. But of course, what you've just heard there is worrying. It may mean they have to reassess that easing of restrictions, or perhaps keep a few of them in, for example, face masks or advice to work from home. Another piece of information that's emerged this morning is that the government is said to be ditching the idea of a vaccination passport, and that would have been for things like live events, the sort of thing that young people would go to. The question is, does that mean those events will just be postponed altogether?
Katy, thanks very much.